I know the video is called How to Speak English Fast, but do you really need to speak English fast? Let me tell you something. Sometimes we think that native speakers speak fast and this is why they sound so natural. In reality, they don't speak fast. They just connect all the words together, and instead of splitting them up, which sounds a little kind of slower, they just put them all together as if one sentence is one big word. They omit some syllables, they add some new sounds, and this is why they sound the way they sound. And sometimes it's hard for us to understand them just because they don't split up words, and we think that they're just speaking too fast. In reality, they're not. Today, I'm gonna teach you this technique. I'm gonna teach you how native speakers do it, so you can do it to sound more native, and so that you understand the mechanics behind kind of faster speaking, so you can understand native speakers. For example, you see a phrase, what do you? For example, in a sentence, what do you do? But Americans would never say like this, what do you do? They'll say, what do you do? What do you do?
What do you do?
So the speed, the pace is kind of the same. It's just connecting everything. What do you do? And if you don't know the way they do it, you're like, what was that? Another phrase, I am going to do some shopping. What Americans would say, they would say, I'm gonna do some shopping. Again, not I'm going to, I'm gonna do. Again, they've connected something, they actually paraphrase it a little.
I'm gonna get some water. Do you want some?
And some Americans would even say, I'm gonna do shopping. This is like the very, very contracted version of it. So what Americans do, they take those smaller words and they pronounce them in a way that is easier for them in daily speech. For example, article the is pronounced like the. What's the weather today? So they don't say what's the weather today. They say they say what's the weather today. So it's the because it's easier.
Oh, what about the weather report?
You sometimes sounds like yeah. Do you want to go for a walk? Again, do you want to go for a walk sounds as if you just started learning English. Do you want to go for a walk? Sounds closer to being a native speaker. And another thing that you might have noticed when we say what do, so we have T at the end of the word what, and we have D at the beginning of the word do, we kind of invent a new sound here. Instead of saying what do you do, we say what you do. So there is a sound ch, which appears in the middle. Again, this is a way to make your speech smoother. And this is what all native speakers do. For example, what you do for a living. What you do for a living.
What you do?
To make this even clearer for you, I'm gonna read a sentence out loud. The first time I read it, I'm gonna read it as a student. The second time I read it, I would try to read it as a native speaker. Let's do it. I am going to go out to Walmart. Do you need anything? I'm gonna go out to Walmart. Do you need anything? Again, I replaced I'm going to with I'm gonna go to Walmart, and I've connected Walmart with do. We have a word that ends with T and we have a word that begins with D. So I'm gonna go to Walmart. Do you need anything? And there's this ch that appeared in the middle. The next word, a little confusing, I know, especially when you hear this first in a native speaker speech. Something, they say something. I don't know why this appears, it's just the way the language evolves when people speak it, but can you give me something? This is sometimes what native speakers say, which is correct. Don't be confused, it's just the same as something. The next phrase, let me give you something. The Americans would say, let me give you something. So they just omit the letter T and you get let me get you something.
Let me give you something.
In American English, if you have a letter T in the middle of a word, sometimes you pronounce it as D. Letter, letter.
Letter?
Because it's faster, because it's smoother. City, you don't say it. City, city.
City?
It's like DNR, city. Bitter, and it sounds a little British, so in Great Britain they would say still bitter. In American English they would say bitter.
Bitter.
Let me give you some more examples. Bottle, bottle, butter, butter, computer, computer, I can't even say it with the T, computer, 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 daughter, daughter, 80, 80, 40, 40, little, little, settle, settle, 30, 30. You see, this T converts to D all the time. As you notice, it's even unnatural for me to say little, 30, just because I'm so used to, inserting D instead of T. This would come automatically, not automatically, automatically to you guys when you practice. This is first the way to speak faster. Second, this is the way to speak more naturally. And third, this is an easier way to understand native speakers because you now know how the mechanics work. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I just had an online meetup event where I had people from all over the world, and we all spoke English and we were discussing online business in 2020. And what I've noticed is that people who are not English native speakers were using a language that is textbook. So there were some people who are in the US and their language was completely different. And when I was listening to those people, I started noting those differences, and I decided to share my insights with you, because with these insights you will be able to speak English as a native speaker and you wouldn't sound, I would say, a little old-fashioned, because when you're using this textbook English you sound a little too academic or a little too old-fashioned. With these tips, by the end of this class, your English will be more native, will be more kind of American and modern. So if you're interested, continue watching this video. You probably know it, but not all of you are using it in your everyday speech, and this thing is reduced forms. Let's look at some examples. Instead of want to, you say wanna.
I want to know. Want to know what?
I want to go to London. I want to study in the US. Because when you say I want to study in the US, it sounds a little weird. It doesn't have this natural flow. So with these reduced forms, you're getting this natural flow to your language. Let's look at another example, and please go ahead and try saying stuff together with me. I'm going to wash the car, but you're gonna say I'm gonna wash the car.
I'm gonna go wash up.
You see the difference? You see, it's a completely different attitude. It's a completely different mood of the sentence. When somebody asks you what time is it, you can say I don't know, which is again a little strange. You say I don't know. I don't know. And this D is actually replaced with R. I don't know. You're not saying D. You don't say I don't know. You're saying I don't know. It's like I don't know. Yeah, it's weird, but this is how it works with the language. I don't know. Try it.
Listen, I don't know and I don't care.
Yes. And last but not the least, got to versus gotta. I gotta do my homework instead of I got to do my homework.
We gotta fix it. Gotta.
By the way, you can say I got to do my homework if you decide to speak British English. And this is my tip number 2. You need to decide which accent you want to adopt. Because you can speak British English, you can speak Canadian English, you can speak Australian English, you can speak American English. And there is nothing wrong with either of those accents. It's just you need to be consistent. And I started learning English with the British version and I really liked it, and I think I can still imitate my British accent. I don't know. I'm not using it at all. Maybe if I come to Britain for a week, I will get back to British accent, but I like American accent. And I would say American accent is the easiest to learn just because there are so many resources in American English. I try to speak with an American accent. There are a lot of YouTubers out there. If you take top 20 YouTubers, I think all of them will be from the US.
I'm going to be surprising my best friend Shane!
Canadian accent is supposed to be the easiest to understand. So if you're struggling with understanding native speakers, try and Google Canadian YouTubers and watch their videos first, and then once you start understanding them, Maybe you just stick with the Canadian accent, or you develop your ear and you move on to American YouTubers, or you decide that Britain is your way to go and you adopt British accent. But one thing here is just be consistent with whatever you choose. By the way, guys, if you're looking for more ways to improve your English to speak like a native speaker, I have created a workbook in English which has all of the rules that you can think of. We have idioms there. We have a list of movies that you can watch in American English. We have a list of YouTubers and Instagram bloggers that you can follow who vlog in English, so you can get a sense of what real English is. We have a lot of visual examples of how to use different articles. We have a lot of tasks and tests for you. And I worked on this product for 4 months. I really hope you enjoyed. The link will be below. It's really interactive. It has a video from me where I explain you how to use it, where I explain you tenses in English, the most used tenses. It's really useful for any English language learner, and it doesn't matter which level you're at right now, because it covers almost every topic in English, and I think it's going to be really useful for you. The link will be below. We made it really affordable. It's a very small check, but it's a lot of value, and we've sold over 20,000 copies already, and we've got amazing reviews from students from all over the world, so the link will be below. Let me know what you think about my workbook. Now the next is learn to ignore fillers and also learn to use them. Let's take a look at a list of common fillers. Actually, anyway, basically, by the way, by the way, with I have a very interesting story. When I was reading a book, and they had this there, and I was like, what does that mean? And I started digging it up in the dictionary and I couldn't find it, and then I started googling it, and then I realized this is just the way to write the sound It took me some time. And if you encounter one of those filler words, don't try to translate them, just ignore them. And this is your way to understand native speakers. At the same time, if you need time to think during your speech, please feel free to insert them to get some extra time to think what you're gonna say next. Let's look at some other examples of filler words. I mean, incidentally, in fact, obviously, well, you know. Let's look at the sentence with filler words. By the way, I saw Mark yesterday. So obviously I said hello to him, but he basically ignored me. You see, we have a lot of filler words here that don't really affect the meaning. They just there for somebody who said the sentence to take some time to think about what's going to be next. Let's remove all the filler words and look at the sentence once again. I saw Mark yesterday. I said hello to him, but he ignored me. 13 words instead of 20 words. You see, it makes a lot of difference, especially if you're struggling to understand things. You just omit them and you go ahead, you save your time. You don't panic because you don't understand every single word. The next important thing, contractions. Contractions is also something to do with delivery, but we're talking about contractions in the language. I am. Instead of I am hungry, you say I'm hungry. And it's not even I'm hungry, it's hungry. Like funny. I'm hungry. This is the way to contract I am.
I'm hungry.
You say I'll instead of I will. I'll do that, I'll pick it up.
I'll be back.
But please don't use this contraction with names. You can't say Kate will do that. Kate will do that. The only way to say will with names is to say the whole thing. Kate will do that. You cannot use contractions with names. Instead of do not, you say don't. I don't like it. It's just the way to speed up your speech. I don't like it. Try and say it yourself. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I've instead of I have. I've got your back. I've done this before.
I am. I've got your back.
And I'd instead of I would. I'd like to join you. I'd like to stay home.
I'd like to know.
Pay attention to stress in your speech. What you notice right now is that I've emphasized the word stress because I want your attention on this word. Pay attention to stress. And this is what Americans do a lot. They either slow down when something important is going on, or they make their voice louder when they want to emphasize a word, or they just raise their intonation when something is really important. You see how I highlighted really with my speech. So that's also a hint for you to understand natives. They would always highlight the most important word with their intonation or loudness of their voice. Next tip, use slang. And yes, we've learned a lot of slang words with you, but I just want to emphasize that people use those slang words a lot because sometimes you learn them and you're in your country and you're like, okay, whatever. But then you start interacting with native speakers and suddenly they're like, do you want to hang out with me?
You want me to hang out with you?
And you're like, what was that? Hang out is to spend time together. Oh, we had a blast yesterday. It was an amazing party.
We're gonna have a blast.
And you're like, what does that mean? To have a blast means to have fun. So please rewatch my videos where I talk about slang words. They're really awesome. I love slang because it has a lot of culture in it. Rewatch them, try to use them in your speech when you're speaking with native speakers. And by the way, disclaimer here, if you're writing an academic essay, please don't use any of the rules that I mentioned in this video because academic essays are all about being way too academic, boring, old-fashioned, and not the way you are in your real life, unfortunately, but these are the rules. And every cloud has a silver lining. If you know what I mean, then you've learned different idioms and proverbs and sayings. And this is another important thing to do when you're learning a foreign language. Always, always, always learn the idioms. Because if somebody says, I'm feeling under the weather, and you're like, what does that mean? Because you can't figure out from just reading this idiom what it means, because to feel under the weather means to feel bad. But how are you supposed to figure it out? If it's sunny outside, if the sun is shining, and if the weather is amazing, how can feeling under the weather be a bad thing? But it is.
A little under the weather this morning.
Let's play by ear. What does that mean? How can we play by ear? The only way to understand it is to learn it. To play by ear means to look at circumstances, look at what's gonna happen, and then decide based on those things.
Let's play this one by ear.
So there are so many idioms and proverbs and sayings that I urge you to learn. Again, I have a lot of videos on that, and you can rewatch them. Hey guys, welcome to Linguamarina. Today we're gonna talk about speaking English fast and understanding native speakers. Native speakers speak in a way that is easy for them. American English, for example, is really relaxed. So if you want to sound like an American person, you really need to sit down on a couch and, just relax your jaw, relax your mouth, and relax your thoughts, because Americans like to omit words, they just throw them away from the phrase. They like to connect words together, and if you learn the techniques that native speakers are using, and they don't necessarily think of them as techniques. This is just the way for them to simplify the language and to speak it faster. So if you learn those techniques, you would be able to first understand native speakers and second, use those techniques in your speech to sound more natural. Today I'm going to talk about these techniques, and if you want to sound more natural, if you want to sound like a native speaker, continue watching this video up to the very end. And I know a lot of you would tell me, Marina, but why should I sound like a native speaker? People still understand me, my accent is okay. Yes, it is okay to maintain your accent, it is okay to maintain the way you speak, but in order to understand native speakers, you need those techniques. And if you want to build more trust, for example, if you're like me, who wants to raise money in Silicon Valley and you're talking to Silicon Valley investors, there are so many doubts about you, like, is your product gonna explode? Is your company good? And then your accent, and then there are so many things that make people doubt you, and eliminating your accent is one of those things, would really help you in whatever you're gonna do in English. Thing number one that American people do is they cut off words. So for example, you can say, are you ready to go? The shorter version would be, are you ready? But Americans would just say, you ready? And that's it. They would just omit R. Yes, it's grammatically incorrect. And yes, if you're writing an academic letter, if you're writing a personal statement, if you're taking a test, you would never ever do that because you're gonna get a lower grade. But if you are speaking to a friend, if you are trying to integrate into American or whatever English-speaking country's society, you can totally do that, and you can say, you're ready. Or instead of saying, are you going? Are you coming? You can say, you coming? And that's it.
Dale, you coming? Dale, you coming?
Instead of saying, it was great talking to you, you can just say, great talking to you. And that's it. Again, it's grammatically incorrect, but it's widely used. The second thing that native speakers do is they shorten words. I am a fan of baseball, or if you want to be super formal, the longer version for fan is fanatic. I am a baseball fanatic. But you would never say that. You would say, I am a fan of baseball. Americans would say, ahmma. Instead of I am, they would say ahmma. Then they would say fan, and they would connect fan with the next phrase, fan of baseball. I'm a fan of baseball. So we see two phenomenons here. First, they are omitting words. They're just throwing them away. They're contracting them. And second, they are connecting what's left. I'm a fan of baseball. And when they speak faster, I'm a fan of baseball. You see, it was really fast. And unless you're used to people doing this, unless you understand that this is the technique that you're using, you're gonna have trouble understanding. Another tip for you, if you watch somebody's mouth, it's a lot easier to understand what they're saying. So if you're trying to understand a movie, really watch the actor, really watch what they're doing with their mouth. If you want to understand a song, I would switch on the music video and hope that the singer is actually singing, lip singing in the video so you can follow their lips. And this is why it's really hard for you to speak on the phone, because you don't see the person and there is no like visual hint for you what kind of things they're saying. But I promise you it's gonna come. The more videos you watch on this channel, and if you're not yet subscribed, hit subscribe button. The more videos you'll like on this channel, the better your English gets and the easier it will be for you to understand native speakers. Some other examples of people contracting words, saying congrats instead of congratulations. Congrats on your birthday instead of congratulations on your birthday.
Congrats on your new apartment.
Totes is a contraction of a word totally. And the most widely used contraction is thanks instead of thank you.
Thanks for your compassion.
The next thing you need to learn is to understand hints. And this is kind of psychological even. So imagine we're sitting in a room together and I tell you, it's so cold. The right reaction from your side would not be like, oh yeah, it's really cold. But if you can do something, like maybe you could close the window, because I said it's cold, maybe I'm visiting you at your place and I say it's really cold, and maybe you know that the air conditioning is on and you would be like, oh, do you want me to switch off the air conditioning? Or do you want me to close the window? Or, oh yeah, I know it's really cold, do you want to use my sweater? So really, Americans, they don't really tell you directly what they want because they don't want to offend you. They don't want to force you to do something, but they're kind of giving you hints. It's a little cold here. You know, I feel a little uncomfortable working with that person. And they're not telling you directly that they don't want to work with that person. They want you to take action. They want you to make a decision. Or for example, you know, I don't really have time tomorrow to come, and then you should offer something different. So really look for those hints. Again, Americans would never tell you directly. Well, they would, some of them would. But in a lot of formal situations, they would kind of navigate you towards what they want. Next thing you need to learn is to detect sarcasm. For example, we're sitting in the same room. We're in Los Angeles and it's 100 degrees outside, which is almost like 37 Celsius. And I tell you, oh my God, it's so cold.
It's so cold.
And in this situation, you need to know that it's hot in here. And you need to understand that it's sarcasm. And there's no need to switch off the air conditioning or offer me a sweater. So you need to also learn what's sarcasm. And I know in different countries, jokes can be different. And the more movies you watch in English, the more bloggers you follow, the more interaction you have with native speakers, you're gonna learn it. Because when I first came to an English-speaking country, I didn't understand sarcasm. And when my host family's father tried to joke, I would take everything seriously and I would be like, really? We were walking on Bond Street, which is like one of the most expensive streets in London, and they have like all of the Louis Vuittons, Chanel and stuff. And he was telling me, you know, you need to sell a house in order to walk into the store. And I'll be like, well, really? You need to sell a house? And he would go ahead and explain me that I am saying this sarcastically because you don't actually need to sell a house, but you need to have a lot of money to shop at the store. Another thing that happened to me in America, somebody told me we call Whole Foods whole paycheck. Whole Foods is a store, grocery store, and it's a kind of high-end one, kind of expensive, and I would be like, why do you call it whole paycheck? And the person would tell me that you would spend everything that you got this month in order to get some groceries in Whole Foods. And I thought like, wow, if they're getting like $10,000 a month, do they spend all of that? But of course it was a joke. Yes, it's expensive, but you don't spend the whole thing. So learn to understand sarcasm. It's gonna take a while, especially if you're like me. I take people really seriously all the time, but you're gonna learn it, I promise. The next thing that we've already touched upon in this class is you need to connect words, and I'm gonna give you some examples. Instead of saying, could you join me, you say, could you join me? So there is like this extra J sound, J sound. Could you join me? Again, this is the way to connect these two words.
Oh, glad you could join us.
I saw Alice with an older man. Now it's your turn. Try to connect words. I'll give you 3 seconds. The way you say this phrase with connecting words, I saw Alice with an older man. Saw Alice, older man. It sounds like one word. The next step is very easy. Instead of saying yes all the time, say yeah. That's the thing Americans say when you ask something like, can I park my car here? Yeah, of course. Well, they say yes. Of course they say yes. But yeah is more informal, yeah is more casual, and yeah is something that's more widely used than yes. Yes is kind of, well, you know what's yes.
Yeah, sure. Sure, yeah.
The phrase is no prob. Instead of no problem, you can say no prob. Or you can say no worries. Two phrases that Americans use all the time, really casual, really nice phrases. Hey guys, welcome to linguamarina. A lot of you DM me on Instagram, and if you don't follow me on Instagram, it's linguamarina. Or a lot of you write comments here on YouTube saying, Marina, I've been learning English for several years. When I read things, I understand the text, I understand the meaning. But sometimes I listen to native speakers and I don't understand them at all.
I don't understand.
And I try to speak like them, but I can't. If this is something that you experience, this video is for you. Today, we're gonna talk about a thing called connected speech. And this is what native speakers do all the time when they talk. Because some words are pronounced one way when they're pronounced separately, but when they are in a context, when they're surrounded by other words, their pronunciation changes. And today, we're gonna dig into those rules. We're gonna explore behind the scenes of American accent, and we're gonna explore what native speakers do to sound the way they sound and how you can do the same to sound more like an American if that's your goal. So if you're interested, smash the like button and let's continue discussing this topic. In American English, people tend to avoid non-essential words by making them weak. And by that, I mean that there is no stress on those words when people talk. Let me give you some examples. So for example, fish and chips, right? 3 words. But when we talk, we say fish and chips. In this way, the word and is in a weak form, and basically we only say "n", fish and chips. That's it.
Fish and chips, please.
And this way, maybe you know what fish and chips is, but when people say fish and chips, you're like, oh, what was that? Just because Americans and native speakers in general speak faster, they do things that are convenient for them. And the convenient thing is to make prepositions, auxiliary verbs, different helping words, make them weaker so that you don't spend your energy, you don't waste your energy in emphasizing them. They're still there, they still affect the meaning, but the way they're pronounced is different because they are made weak. Let me give you another example. Have you finished work? So the emphasis is on work here and have is weak. Have you finished work? Compare this to the answer. Yes, I have. Here, have is strong and vivid. It is not weak at all. You have a stress on it.
Yes, I have.
So compare this. Have you finished work? Yes, I have. This is a very clear example of weak word. She can speak Spanish better than I can. So we have 2 cans in this sentence. The first can is not even pronounced as can. We say, she can speak Spanish. It's can. That's it. We even emit a, and this is what native speakers do in weak forms. She can speak Spanish, but the next can is strong. She can speak Spanish better than I can.
I can make him happier than she can.
So if you learn this and if you start using this, you will sound more like a native speaker, more like an American native speaker, because in Great Britain, what I notice is that people try to avoid weak forms. They try to emphasize every single word. The next thing that native speakers do is called linking. This is when you kind of sing. When I was learning my accent, where I was trying to copy native speakers, my teacher would say, you know, Marina, you're good at singing. Try to sing in English, because when you sing a song, you try to connect words. And this is what native speakers do. They are linking everything together, because if I speak like this doesn't sound natural. But if I speak like this, it sounds natural, and one word evolves from the other word. A very clear example: cats or dogs. A native speaker would say cats or dogs. Like, sounds just like one word, but it's actually 3 words.
Ooh, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Another great example: easy busy, which means is he busy? But we actually omitted sound H and we have easy busy. You see what's going on?
Is he busy?
The next thing is called elision. And this is when one sound is substituted by another sound or completely disappears from a word. Again, widely used in America. In Great Britain, you would say interview. In America, interview. So T here just disappears. Interview. That's it. I would actually say it's substituted by another N, because this N becomes a little longer. Interview. No T at all.
Great interview.
Same example. Center. American for center. So T is substituted with this longer N, and you get center, not center. And center is very British.
Learning center?
Wanted instead of wanted. Butter instead of butter. And this is another thing Americans do. When you have double T, it is substituted by D, and it's again called elision. Butter, not butter. But again, if you want to sound more British, butter is the pronunciation you would go for.
Butter.
Next door. This is where we have both linking and elision, because next door is the way we would pronounce it if we were at school and the teacher told us pronounce everything. But if we want to sound more American, we'll say next door, where the T disappears and 2 words get linked together.
Oh, next door.
And another great example, most common. Just listen to what's happening here. Most common. T disappears, the words are linked together. Most common. That's it. Again, the way you practice it is that you just listen to people and you kind of have this in mind, what you just learned. When you have this in mind and you start noticing it, it will become a lot easier for you to understand native speakers. And once you start noticing those things, the way native speakers use them, you will start using them yourself and your speech would become even better. Assimilation. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys love American songs, and you hear people saying don't ya, won't ya, and you're like, what does that mean? We didn't learn that at school. Let me explain this. Assimilation is when 2 sounds combine, producing a new sound. So instead of saying don't you, Americans say don't ya. Again, this is not like every American would do that. But this is very common, and you would hear that in pop culture. You would hear teenagers do that. You won't really hear a professor at Stanford do that, because they try to speak a more formal language. What we're learning here is more, common thing. So don't you would be replaced by don't ya. Won't you would be replaced by won't ya. The same with meet you. It was very nice to meet you. It's very kind of British / formal. Was great to meet ya. This is an American version, and very, very, I'd say California, when you're talking to your friends, you'd say it was great to meet you. Did you? I can't even pronounce it the way I would pronounce it back when I was like at school. Did you? People don't really say that. They say did you? Again, this new sound between the 2 words. If you only think that people are omitting sounds, they actually add new ones. This is called intrusion. Let me give you a couple of examples. Do it is pronounced as do it. So we kind of have this extra letter between the two words, W, and it's pronounced as you, do it. How did you do it?
Do it.
He asked. Again, you can say he asked, but you would say he asked me to go out. We're singing in a language to sound more natural. So this he asked, we have this extra Y between these two words, and this is why it sounds like he asked.
He asked.
And the last but not the least, there are pairs of words that we use together very often, like social life. But we don't say social life, we say social life, because we just connect them and we make one word out of two words when we talk. And this just helps us sound more natural. Social life.
What about your social life?
Woke up, we would just say woke up. Pet turtle, here we have two T's that are together, we just connect them. Pet turtle, that's it.
We got a new pet turtle! Yeah!
If you think that you need more tricks like these, I highly recommend a course that a teacher who is not a native speaker, but who sounds just like a native speaker and nobody can actually tell that he wasn't born in America, he has put together this course for a Lingua Trip, and I would highly recommend you to take this course. It is called How to Speak Like a Native Speaker, and this course is full of tricks like these. And in this course you would learn them, you would practice them, and you would hear a lot more examples than I've given you today. So if you are on track to speak like a native speaker and to understand natives, then the link will be below. It's gonna wait there for you. Please take this course and improve your speech. Thank you so much for watching this video up to the very end, guys. Hit subscribe to this channel in order to not miss my next videos, and I will see you very soon on this channel and on my Instagram, linguamarina. Thank you and bye.